Hey, Pretty Girl Club. So, have you ever noticed how in the Black women empowerment space, when they talk about things like colorism, texturism, featureism, and pretty privilege, their goal is not to end any of these things. Their goal is just to reverse them. So, they don't want to end colorism, they just want to reverse it. So, instead of dark skins being the quote unquote basic ones or whatever, instead of the dark skinned, unambiguous women being seen as ugly, they want the lighter skinned, mixed women to be the new standard of ugly or the new standard of mediocre. So this whole empowerment thing, it's not really about empowerment. It's really about competition in order to, make yourself higher on the social hierarchy. It's really about like kind of this unspoken beauty competition that a lot of unambiguous black women have seen themselves as being in with mixed women. A lot of unambiguous monoracial black women have compared themselves to MLS women for decades now, and they exposed that on documentaries like Dark Girls, or even if you see their interactions with dark-skinned black men. So obviously this is more of a monoracial African American community problem. I've never really seen mixed race, multicultural people going back and forth, like obsessing over skin tones or whatever, because we kind of understand, like, okay, we all have a mixed background, so like, who cares? It's not a big deal. But I've noticed that this whole colorism movement, it's not about ending colorism because number one, how can you truly end colorism? How can you really end racism and featureism? Well, you can't really control what other people do. Racism will always exist. Colorism will always exist. So I've noticed that their plan is really to reverse the colorism. So like I said, it's to make lighter skin tones be viewed as the ugly ones. That's why you see all of the clips that I've shown on this channel of those creators straight up calling us ugly. Like on one of the videos that I recently did, this girl, she called a biracial girl butt ugly. It's because they want the new standard of ugliness to be someone with a lighter skin tone. They want mixed race people to be the quote unquote ugly ones, and it's not going to work because most people want to date us or create us. Ask the average person of any race who they would like to date or who their celebrity crushes are. They're either going to name someone who is mixed race or they are going to name someone outside of their own race on average, especially if they are African American. And so, with that being said, most people want to date us or create us. The divesting women, they are currently creating more of us as we speak. Passport bros, they are creating more of us as we speak. So mixed people aren't going anywhere. In fact, we are the fastest growing community in the world. We've got plenty of self-hating people from all kinds of backgrounds who have tried to breed out their own blackness, whiteness, etc. And to be honest, other people's self-hatred, it's not our problem. We can't help that we exist. We can't help that we were born. And I'm not even trying to throw shade because I know that it's like really bad and it's a really sad thing if someone hates themselves. But I'm not going to fall for this narrative that quote unquote lighter skinned people or that mixed race people are the new standard of ugly. I'm not tolerating that. This is an anti-bullying channel, so I am not tolerating people who want to bully our phenotype. Our phenotype has always been and always will be beautiful. It always will be a standard of beauty because notice how especially in the monoracial black community, they naturally push us MLS people to the forefront. They pushed Beyonce to the forefront above Kelly. They push people like Ice Spice to the forefront. They push people like Mariah the Scientist or like Ella Mai or anyone who has an MLS background. They naturally push us to the forefront because even though they try to say, oh, you're ugly, you're mediocre, we are obviously not because you are so fascinated by us. You're so fascinated by our beauty. You are fascinated by our multiracial backgrounds or you're fascinated by our phenotype. You think that it's interesting. You look up to it. You pedestalize it, whether you realize it or not. Also, anytime someone starts policing who's light-skinned and who's not, remember, if you police it, you're pedestalizing it. So the fact that people even argue back and forth about which celebrity is light-skinned and who's lighter than the other one and, who looks more ambiguous than the other one. Anyone that's going back and forth about things like that, they definitely pedestalize it because also notice how it's usually non-light-skinned people who argue back and forth about who's light-skinned. I don't think I've ever seen, let's say, a white person or a white passing person or another light-skinned person. I don't think I've ever seen other light-skinned people arguing back and forth, creating entire lipstick alley threads, creating entire posts, posting pictures of that celebrity in the summertime, winter, spring, and fall, and then doing an entire color analysis, arguing back and forth about who's light-skinned. No, Only people who pedestalize lighter skin tones do stuff like that. So this whole colorism argument, it's not about ending colorism. It's about trying to reverse that pedestal it's about fighting over that pedestal of, which phenotype is considered the prettiest, which hair texture, eye color, skin tone, whatever is considered the prettiest. And I've noticed that a lot of unambiguous women, they're just trying to reverse it, or they're trying to just take that pedestal. They're not trying to end anything. They're not trying to bring any unity. No, they just want you, mixed race women, to be the new ugly girls, or to be the new girls who are quote unquote at the bottom. I personally didn't know that we were in an invisible beauty competition, but apparently if you look at some of their YouTube channels, they are viewing it as, we're in a beauty competition, and as unambiguous monoracial black women, they feel like they are somehow at the bottom. And so their goal is to just not be at the bottom. So in order to not be at the bottom, obviously somebody else has got to be in last place, right? If you're in a ranking system. Like imagine if you're running a race and there are 7 places in the race and you don't want to be in 7th place, you don't want to be last, so you try to fight for 6th place. So now whoever would have been in 6th place is now at the bottom. So I've noticed that's kind of their whole strategy with this thing. They're trying to make it like, they're no longer at the bottom, like they're at the blueprint or whatever. And then in turn, they're trying to put down mixed race people and say that we're mediocre or ugly. So I don't have a problem with other people kind of pedestalizing or big upping their own phenotype, but I do have a problem when you start making racist comments against mixed race people and saying that we are somehow ugly or that we're like mediocre and we're at the bottom. That's the part that I don't like, because now you are perpetuating the very same behaviors that caused you to have PTSD and that caused you to have an inferiority complex. You are now trying to project that inferiority complex onto mixed race people. And I've noticed that the strategies that they use to do this are they will try to rank us based on whiteness. So they will compare a person with more of an African mixed race phenotype. They'll compare that to someone who has a closer proximity to whiteness. And they'll say, oh, well, Jenna Frooms outranks you because she's more white. Or they'll say, Halsey outranks you guys because she's more white. So they want you to feel the same inferiority complex about your blackness that they do about theirs. And I'm not falling for it. We're not falling for it over here in the Exoticals United community. We are too smart for that. Not only do we have pretty privilege, but here on this YouTube channel, we are building our education privilege. So we are going to continue educating ourselves. We're going to continue leveling up in every single area, and we're not falling for these tactics anymore. Anyway, what do you ladies think? Have you ever noticed how the colorism, texturism, featureism thing, it's not actually about unity. It's not about ending anti-blackness. It's just about making mixed people the new target for that anti-blackness. Have you ever noticed that? Let me know what you think in the comments section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.